Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was more than just a singer. He was a cultural phenomenon. Yet behind the glitz and glamour, a darker story unfolded, one of insecurity and substance abuse. Many might think Elvis's problems were just Hollywood drama or the price of fame, but it was far more personal. His struggles with insecurity stemmed from his time in Hollywood, where he felt like everyone was laughing at him behind his back. This feeling was compounded by his heavy use of amphetamines, drugs he acquired through shady means, pretending to be an expert on prescription medication. In those days, many Americans saw prescription drugs as safe, just like alcohol or caffeine. Elvis, however, took this belief to an extreme. With the help of fake prescriptions and friendly pharmacists, he downed amphetamines like they were candy. To calm down after these highs, he relied on sleeping pills and powerful tranquilizers. Elvis rationalized this dangerous behavior, telling himself these were legal substances, unlike illegal drugs like marijuana or heroin. This mindset was not unique to him. Many middle-class Americans in the late 1950s and early 1960s viewed prescription drugs as a harmless way to boost their performance and cope with daily stress. Elvis wasn't monitored like most people because of his celebrity status and his vast knowledge of drugs, thanks to his extensive reading of the physician's desk reference. By the early 1960s, his drug use had become more dangerous. He took massive amounts of uppers to stay alert and then used heavy sedatives to sleep. This cycle left him exhausted but was justified in his mind as necessary to keep up with the demands of stardom. On set, Elvis's behavior was often attributed to immaturity or the antics of his friends. However, his hyperactivity and distraction were clear signs of his drug use. People wrote it off as typical Elvis behavior, being young, energetic, and surrounded by fellow pranksters. But the truth was more alarming. As his drug intake increased, so did his reliance on sleep medications to function. Despite these personal struggles, Elvis's career continued to soar. In 1961, his film Blue Hawaii became a massive hit, reaching number 2 on the Variety chart. Directed by Norman Taurog, who had previously worked with Elvis on GI Blues, the film was a light-hearted musical comedy. Taurog encouraged Elvis to relax and have fun on set, and their rapport helped make the film a success. Blue Hawaii showcased Elvis as a charming and confident young man, perfect for the role of a pineapple heir-turned-tour guide. The movie's success proved that Elvis's formula, a blend of music, charm, and wholesome appeal, continued to captivate audiences. This success, however, also reinforced Elvis's reluctance to take on more serious roles. After the mixed reception of his previous serious films, the box office triumph of Blue Hawaii made him wary of risking his popularity. With Parker, his manager, sharing his concerns, Elvis settled into a comfortable niche, making films that played to his strengths rather than pushing him to explore new acting territories. These films were often set in exotic locations and featured Elvis in glamorous, action-packed roles. He played pilots, race car drivers, and rodeo riders, always surrounded by beautiful women and rival suitors. Despite the formulaic nature of these movies, Elvis's charisma and ease with the material kept audiences engaged. Colonel Parker, ever the protector of Elvis's image, even intervened to ensure Elvis remained the center of attention in every film. Yet beneath the surface of these successful but unchallenging films, Elvis found little satisfaction. His true passion lay elsewhere, as seen in his passionate but brief collaboration with Anne Margaret in Viva Las Vegas. This film marked a rare moment where Elvis's energy and commitment shone through, thanks in part to his off-screen affair with Anne Margaret. The musical numbers in particular were a highlight, showcasing a more vibrant and enjoyable Elvis than audiences had seen in years. Despite these moments of brilliance, Elvis's film career continued to follow the pattern set by Blue Hawaii. His movies were designed to capitalize on his star power rather than challenge him artistically. As the 1960s progressed, the Hollywood landscape was changing, but Elvis remained anchored to his familiar role, a reflection of his own fears and the conservatism that defined his approach to his craft. After making Viva Las Vegas, Elvis's movie projects started to feel like a routine. He was tired of making the same kind of films and wanted to prove he could be more than just a musical star. However, his manager Parker had other ideas. Parker wanted to keep Elvis as the main focus of every movie. He didn't want to share the spotlight or risk another performer taking attention away from Elvis. Elvis, feeling insecure about his acting in Hollywood, agreed with Parker. As a result, Elvis's movies became very predictable. Parker pushed for quick and cheap production methods. This meant shorter shooting times, less expensive locations, and simpler scripts. The goal was to save money, but it also meant lower quality films. At a time when other studios were making big-budget musicals and serious movies, Elvis's films looked cheap by comparison. Even Parker thought some of the films, like Harum Scarum, were not very good. Despite the poor quality, Elvis's movies still drew a lot of fans. People loved his music and wanted to see him on screen. These movies made money for the studios and for Elvis himself. In fact, his earnings from movies kept going up even as the quality went down. In 1962, he made over $900,000 from his films. By 1967, that number jumped to $2,700,000. This was mostly because the deals Parker had negotiated were very favorable. Elvis was happy with the money, but he was not happy with the films. He often felt trapped, making 3 formulaic movies a year. He wanted to be more than just a musical performer and expand his acting range, but the system Parker put in place made it hard. He was upset that his films helped pay for more serious movies made by others, like the ones Hal Wallis produced. Wallis once said that the commercial success of Elvis's films was needed to fund artistic projects. This situation made Elvis and Parker argue more often. Elvis was frustrated not only with the films, but also with how the music industry was changing. New sounds like Motown, girl groups, Beach Boys, and the Beatles were becoming popular, and Elvis felt Parker was out of touch with these new trends. Their arguments were intense, but they always made up. Elvis liked having Parker handle the business side, even if it meant Parker had too much control. Elvis's attitude towards his career and the business side of things played a big role in his situation. Unlike other actors who would have pushed back more, Elvis was content letting Parker make decisions. This made Parker's influence even stronger. Some people might blame Parker for Elvis's decline, but Elvis was ultimately responsible for his own career choices. He chose to rely heavily on Parker, which gave the manager a lot of power over him. This dynamic, more than anyone else, shaped Elvis's fate in Hollywood. By 1966, Elvis Presley's manager, Tom Parker, knew something had to change. Elvis's popularity was dropping, and his music sales were falling too. Parker knew he had to act fast to protect his investment, so he sat Elvis down and made a new deal. This deal was very different from what they had before. For the first time, Parker said any extra money Elvis made from movies or music that wasn't part of their regular agreement would be split 50-50. This was a big change because before, Parker got all the extra profits. Many people thought Parker was just trying to take more money for himself. But Peter Guralnick, a writer who knows a lot about Elvis, says Parker had good reasons. Elvis was the only client Parker had, and his success was crucial. With the music world changing fast, Parker wanted to make sure he was well compensated for all the hard work he put into promoting Elvis. It wasn't fair to ask Parker to keep promoting someone whose star was fading without getting more pay. Elvis knew this and signed the new deal, understanding it was in his best interest too. But Parker wasn't just worried about money, he also noticed big changes in Elvis's behavior. At first, Elvis was always responsible and did his job well. He made sure to be on time, putting good effort in his movies and music, and kept a clean image. But by the mid-1960s, things started to change. Elvis was showing up less prepared and was skipping parts of his job that he didn't like. Parker was in a tough spot, having to explain Elvis's absences and lack of effort to others. Elvis's decline wasn't just because of bad movies. Parker realized it was also about Elvis's lifestyle. Since 1961, Elvis's life in Los Angeles had become very wild. He lived in a big house in Beverly Hills with his friends. They had wild parties with lots of women, alcohol, and sometimes drugs, though Elvis didn't like drugs himself. He preferred amphetamines, which made him hyper but wasn't good for him. In Los Angeles, Elvis and his crew, which included old friends from before the army and new ones like Marty Lacker and Sonny West, lived a life of excess. They had parties with many women, played football, rode motorcycles, and went on trips to Las Vegas. Elvis even had a two-way mirror in his house so he and his friends could watch women in swimsuits. They also loved playing sports like touch football and karate, and they often drove around Beverly Hills in fancy cars. Back in Memphis, things were a bit quieter but not much different. With his mother Gladys gone and his father living elsewhere, only Elvis's grandmother Minnie was left at Graceland. She let Elvis do as he pleased, leading to a more free-spirited atmosphere. Elvis had new friends over often, and the place became more like a whorehouse, as one person described it. Elvis still had some steady relationships, like with Anita Wood, but he also spent time with many other women who came to visit. Elvis and his friends didn't just party in Los Angeles. They drove around in custom-made cars, went to the beach, and even practiced karate. They took lots of road trips to Las Vegas, where they'd watch shows and party late into the night with strippers and showgirls. They would stay up for days, showing off their cool image to the press and the public. This lifestyle made them famous, earning them the nickname Memphis Mafia, a group as tough and flashy as Sinatra's Rat Pack. This wild lifestyle affected more than just Elvis's image. It also changed how he acted on stage and in movies. He wasn't as focused, and this was clear to everyone, including Parker. The changes were hard for Parker to ignore, and he knew something had to be done to bring Elvis back on track.